Thanks for joining us once again. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Our focus today is that 7 firms on paper joined forces and have announced that they will deliver a new charging network to compete with Tesla. Interestingly, these include places like Daimler Benz and GM, who already have deals with Tesla or agreements with Tesla. So we wanted to review that today because it actually kind of tanked the stock. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks for joining us once again. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some ideas on investing and trading, as well as better info, please join us on Patreon. So, I was a little stunned yesterday, when the news came out that 7 of the largest auto companies would be joining forces to produce their own charging network to compete with Tesla. My first reaction was, whoa, wait a second. What happened to the deal with Tesla and Mary Barra's comment that they're going to save $400 million by joining Tesla? So I was like, whoa, that's very strange. My next thought was, I could see perhaps why the stock price fell, because if the price of Tesla stock was contingent upon that new revenue, eventually hitting the bottom line, then not having that revenue would end up being a problem. The next thing that came to mind was the fact that, well, wait a second, what is that? So in the technology business, there's a concept called Vaporware or Vaporware. Now, over the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years, or even 10 years, if you will, if you look at Bob Lutz, there have been literally hundreds of announcements made by many large auto companies about what they're going to do in electric vehicles. In particular, GM has made some very bold, large announcements, and very few of them actually have come true. So, therefore, I'm intrigued by this new announcement. The second thought that came to mind was, how many megapacks has GM or any of those OEMs ever built? So this brings up another question of, if your core competency has nothing to do with electric vehicles, you can make a lot of announcements, but they're definitely ambitious ideas that may or may not pan out. And then, frankly, there are a few of those folks that do have charging facilities, perhaps at their dealer networks, but in general, they're in their infancy. The third thought that came to mind is 67%. In the United States, Tesla still owns 67% of the electric marketplace. So one of the questions that's popping here is, what if you have companies that are in their EV infancy, and therefore, this is more of a pie in the sky situation? The third thought that came to mind is what I call the ATM model. When ATMs first came out, the largest banks installed ATMs for their customer, and it seemed like, hey, we're not going to do anything with competitors because those ATMs we have at all of our branch locations give us a location competitive advantage over other firms. Well, you saw how that went. Basically, those networks were finally put together, and instead of there being an arms race for installation of new ATMs, they simply started charging fees once you're outside the bank that you belong to. And, I would think that we're kind of headed towards that, particularly when you notice that most everybody is signed up to allow their cars to go onto the Tesla network. The next thing that comes to mind is that the numbers that were thrown out are very strange. $1 billion was the amount of money that was announced from, if you will, the 7 biggest auto companies, not Tesla, as they enter the electric space on these chargers. And so when you look at $1 billion, for somebody in your checking account, $1 billion is a lot of money. But in the auto business, $1 billion is a rounding error. So I have to say that I haven't seen every Tesla facility, but particularly some of the things Tesla is building now in Southern California and even in Norway and some other places, you know, those are multi-million-dollar facilities with very large numbers of charging facilities. So having a couple of charging spots in a lot of places with, no restaurants and all the other things that Tesla tends to do suggests to me that, yeah, I guess they're going to be in the business, but I can't say that I'm in that overwhelmed with the possibility of them just destroying the competitive advantage Tesla has in the space as they open those facilities. So I am also very surprised at the cycle time of how this news has affected Tesla stock. Clearly it fell into the low 250s. It's now back up into the 265 realm, seems to be rising again. And part of the reason I decided to make this show is that there's so much news that comes out on Tesla, and it quickly moves the marketplace, and then everything sort of keeps moving on a very hot cycle in the process. So overall, I would say what the market is saying is that it is great news that there's going to be more charging facilities, particularly from the largest OEMs. But the market seems to also be saying that this is an announcement. They haven't built anything yet. They haven't completed their agreement. They haven't gotten permission from the authorities in all these countries to actually do this combination. So there seem to be a large number of obstacles that need to be cleared before this starts getting going, after which you can start seeing building consistent with meeting the goals that they described. So overall, I'd have to say it has what I call ode to Vaporware. You guys, if they came out and said, we have an agreement, we have, facilities now open in X number of cities, I would have been like, oh, okay, Tesla should be nervous about this. But everything described suggests we're 1, 2, 3 years away from anything being significant here. And then finally, the thing that comes to mind is that, we're in a zone now where the next sort of battle we're going to be seeing is the inner city battle. So if you look in Shanghai, Tesla has 3- and 4-story charging facilities for their electric vehicles, and that's the shortcoming right now for all electric vehicles is how do you charge up inner city folks? Yes, there's going to be some charging in the buildings. You're going to have to maybe provide locations closer to work, closer to home in the inner city customers. And so I think that's the next battle that's sort of brewing. And Tesla has some facilities there, it needs a lot more to fill in. But given their strength elsewhere, I just think that it shows Tesla's brand strength, etc. And then obviously I mentioned the Megapack because they're generating revenue in ways that other people are not. So I wanted to quickly weigh in on this because I definitely think it's an important issue, but I just think that the distance to them showing what they can do and still being business in electrical is a hard thing to see happening. Hence, I think it makes sense Tesla stock price starts to rise because this is news, but it's not significant until we actually see them do something other than keep making announcements that really don't amount to much. So we really look forward to your comments on this. Please take time to share. Today's health tip that I wanted to mention is a concept called complex carbohydrates. So I ran into a person who's a well-trained sort of exercise sports person, and what she was sharing is that things like oatmeal, things like kale, quinoa, a number of ways in which you can get complex carbohydrates into your diet, because if you have non-complex, you tend to have it be a sugar spike. But if you have complex, you end up with energy in, and it's slowly consumed and used, and you don't get giant spikes that you get from processed foods that are non-complex carbohydrates. Just a reminder, don't forget your 25 leg lifts a day with a 5-pound weight. We very much look forward to your comments. Thanks for joining us. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to Tesla 300 again, and look forward to explaining why I think that it should get there. But that's the aroma that I see out there currently for a number of reasons. Anyway, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Just au revoir, le hitro, hoda hafa straziche ni hama, kombawa. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.